Okay, thank you and good evening. This is the February 10th JEDO board meeting. The mayor will be unable to be with us tonight. The JEDO operating rules allow the voting members to select one of the city voting members as the chair. So I would be happy to accept that role unless council members Lesser or Nager would like to volunteer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All right, we want to vote on that
Okay, well, I'll call this.
Oh, I don't think a vote is necessary. It
Yeah,
appears
go ahead
there's
and
no
call-
objection.
Okay. Mayor Daley
Okay.
is absent. We have Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Here,
Councilmember Nager,
Here.
Councilmember Lesser,
Here.
Commissioners Rapon,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
and Mays.
Here.
We have 6 present.
okay, thank you. We'll proceed to number 3, the presentation. Brenda, would you read?
A is the 2020 year-end and fourth quarter JEDO report.
Okay, I see a number of people here online. Who is going to make the presentation for us?
I'll start us off, Mr. Chair. But before I jump into
Okay, thank you.
before I jump into our highlights, I want to introduce a couple of guests we have here with us this evening. These 2 gentlemen are leaders in our community in a variety of ways, but one of the ways that they give back to economic development is by being involved in the Go Topeka Board of Directors. So we have with us tonight our 2021 chair, Dr. Robert Carnegie, and then the chair-elect, Doug Wolf, as well. And these 2 gentlemen would like to address the JEDO board and say a couple of words. So Dr. Carnegie, if you'd like to go first, you're welcome.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you to all of the city and county council. 2020 was a really difficult year, as you all know. It was difficult for the health system and, of course, for our entire community. Tough for all of us. But I particularly want to say thank you for your leadership during this difficult time. It is incumbent upon us to get the virus under control. We're very gratified that the numbers are all trending down, and this, I believe, will help facilitate an economic recovery for our community. I, as Molly mentioned, will be the Go Topeka chair, or am the chair of Go Topeka. Encouraged that we have a large and very engaged group of directors from various diverse businesses across the community, and striving for a greater diversity amongst those that are participating as directors. We are focused on re-engaging what I believe is the engine of our prosperity, small businesses, and attracting new and retaining the existing workforce and developing the talent we have here in the community. We're particularly interested, I am particularly interested in our focus on innovation and how that may intersect with our position in research in particular. But I believe that we have a very strong year ahead of us. And I want to thank you all again for all the leadership that you've shown during this very difficult time.
We also have Doug Wolf, chair-elect, and then I was scanning the participants, and it looks like we have a couple other board members with us this evening too, so I'd like to recognize them. Marcia Pope and Dan Foltz are here as well. But Doug, I believe you wanted to say a few things?
Sure, thanks, Molly. I guess the main thing I want to do is echo Dr. Carnegie's thanks for all the hard work amongst all the challenges over this past year. And on behalf of my role in the community as president at Security Benefit, and how important the community is to everything that we do, to our associates, quality of life, getting the right folks and talent in town, and and helping to see Topeka and Shawnee County as a thriving community is important to me personally. It's important to us as a business. And as chair-elect, I hope to learn a lot over the next year and then try and fill the shoes of Dr. Carnegie and all the good work that Molly and Matt and folks have done with, and Dan as the previous chair with Go Topeka. So glad to be here. Hope to learn a lot over the next year and get to meet a lot of people face to face when the time arrives, hopefully sooner rather than later. So thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Doug. All right, well, I will kick it off with just hitting a couple of highlights. You all have the quarterly report in your packet and had received it previously. And this meeting is always one that's got a little bit of odd timing. So I feel like we just talked with you at a JEDO meeting a couple weeks ago. But so I will touch on a little bit of what we've been doing behind the scenes and just share a little bit more than what you see on the paper and the numbers that we report to you in our quarterly reports. So on your screen right now is a sneak peek of some sample marketing collateral with the new brand that we are rolling out for Go Topeka. So it's a fresh look that really speaks to the type of businesses that we're trying to attract here and the type of people that we're trying to attract with the high skill, high wage jobs that we're trying to create here in Topeka and Shawnee County. So this is just a sample of some of the look that we're going to be using going forward with our new brand. So we'll have new marketing collateral, new logo, and then a new website to roll out soon as well. We have a ton of content on our current website. So the conversion of the content from the old site to the new site is taking a bit longer, but I hope to have that rolled out in the next month to month and a half. And Bob Ross on our team and Rhett Flood and some other folks internally are working hard to make sure that we have a good product to roll out. Right now, more than ever, it's very important that we have a good digital presence and are conveying that brand that shows that we are open for business and we're here for those companies that are looking for an innovative place to locate. So just wanted to share that with you. And then just give you a little insight into kind of what's been going on behind the scenes that you won't see on paper, and that we talked a little bit about in December. One of those is obviously the focus areas of the industries that we are looking to grow. We all know that one of the newer focus areas is animal health and ag tech. But I also mentioned at the end of the year and in budget meetings with you all that we have started a partnership with the Kansas Department of Commerce to really tap into the assets that we have at Forbes Field. So we're looking at being a stronger player in aviation and aerospace industries. And we have already started that work with a consultant out of DC that's very involved in Department of Defense projects and other aviation and aerospace related projects. And so we've got one active project that really is looking at some big numbers at Forbes Field. So I hope to share some positive news with you all in the future there, and have been finding a lot of gaps in our knowledge vulnerably with that industry. But Eric Johnson out at MTA has been a great partner, and I hope to bring that industry up to the forefront of our assets here soon. So that's all I've got for business attraction. I believe next up is Barbara with existing business retention and expansion.
Thanks, Molly. I just wanted to add and remind you of all of the efforts and all of the businesses within the community that continue to grow and expand in 2020, despite all of the challenges that we've all had as a community. So you've seen most of these over time, but just as a brief reminder, there were 11 business retention and expansion projects that began in 2020, and 6 were completed through to announcement and all of the information that you receive on those. That added 339 new jobs to the community over the next 5 years, with 54 million in capital investment to the community. And it is a return on our investment. The economic impact over 10 years is over $1.4 billion. So just to have an awareness of everything that you all do as JEDO to support us in the efforts that we do to support our existing businesses and our existing residents in the community doesn't go unnoticed. And it's something that was visible in terms of the programs and projects that we were able to still benefit from and provide within the community in 2020. So wanted to share that with you. And then the talent piece that I want to make sure that you have an update on, because we have been working on this, is related to the Workforce Transportation Initiative that you approved in terms of $100,000 for that in December. We did issue a media release right after that. This is kind of just a brief overview of the report that you are getting. You're getting a transportation weekly report update that is sent to you, and this just kind of gives some high-level overviews of that. We have communicated this existing pilot to multiple participants within the community, as well as the HR contacts of most of the businesses within the community. We've also coordinated meetings with the interested employers and providers. We had at one point in time 4 employers that were interested and did provide agreements to all of those employers. We currently have 2 of those back from those organizations. I'm excited to share that Frito-Lay had provided their fully executed incentive agreement at the very end of January, and we just received the executed incentive agreement from Target on February the 8th, this Monday. So what that means is, because it is an incentive program, they have committed, of course, that full 100% match of their dollars to establish a transportation program for their employers. The employers are the ones that are doing that, and we're thrilled that it's moving forward and that support is still there and available if employers are able to take advantage of that. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions for staff? Barbara, I'd ask a quick question. Did we have some interest as well expressed in this transportation incentive from research?
We currently have an agreement that is outstanding, and once we have the employer submit that, we'll advise the same. So we still have some ongoing interest from an employer, and we'll be able to share that once there's an agreement in place.
Okay, thank you. Who's the next presenter for Go Topeka?
I believe next up is Katrin.
Okay, Katrin.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for advancing the slide, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide a quick update on Plug and Play and Innovation Campus. As Molly said, it's been just 2 months ago, or even less than that, that we provided an update. But you know, we've been so excited to get the first batch of companies started in the first cohort with Plug and Play back in October, and I'm happy to report that the strategy is actually paying off. We have engaged with many of those 10 startups that you see on the slide again, to understand more of what their growth strategy is, putting Topeka in front of them, making connections for them, understand their specific needs. So we are in a good position to be considered for them to develop a footprint here in Topeka. Obviously, that's not going to happen for all 10 of them, but the more opportunity we have to work with those companies, I think the better the chances are that 1 or 2 of them consider Topeka for the future. We have also continued to build links with the ecosystem. Specifically, we have very strong relationships that we're leveraging with KU, with K-State, starting to work with Wichita, but of course also with Washburn University, our local partner, and with service providers. All of these relationships can be activated at any time for the benefit of those startup companies. Next slide, please. And we're getting ready for the next cohort for Plug and Play. And if you remember, we're going to be on a schedule where we have a cohort every 6 months. So twice a year, we'll have about 10 companies in Topeka The next cohort is going to be virtual again, just as out of an abundance of caution. But we're happy that this will be a full cohort with a full 3-month program that starts at the end of March and will culminate in an Animal Health Expo Day in June. And that's an event that I would invite everybody on this call to participate and to attend to see what kind of startups we'll have we have in the cohort number 2. Next slide, please. So of course, in order to put a good offer in front of those companies and attract them to Topeka, we've been working hard over the last 8 months or so, actually a little longer than that, but the last 8 months or so on the viability assessment. And I'm happy to report that the Innovation Advisory Board is getting ready to make a recommendation for a site and a partnership in the very near future. And this will give Go Topeka really the opportunity to continue the strategy that was started many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when Go Topeka bought land to make it shovel ready and to attract companies just like Walmart to develop a distribution center here and attract the jobs that were, the focus area at the time. So with the Innovation Campus, we continue that legacy and strategy in that we're helping as an economic developer to get the building off the ground and to make it ready to offer to those startups and other innovative high growth companies. We'll also include incubation space and so on. So I think this is, the Innovation Campus has huge potential to make Topeka that hub of innovation. And we've worked with Freddie for the last month or two to really put some numbers to the economic impact that we're expecting from this project over the next 10 years. So I'm going to kick it over to Freddie, but before I do that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Katrin? Thank you, Katrin.
Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, so here's the slide. So this slide represents a big picture view of the model and the assumptions that we use to measure the economic impact of the Innovation Center to our local economy in the next 10 years. We start with a large state-of-the-art facility. While the cost of the construction is not fully determined, we estimated that this could cost between $13 to $21 million. We expect to have a small number of full-time workers in the facility that would run the daily operations of the campus, and they will also provide direct support to those entities entering each year. We also expect to see some minor maintenance costs that would be needed to maintain the facility. We could see between 10 to 20 small businesses entering the campus each year. And I would like to emphasize the word small business. And we do this because we don't want to overcount the number of workers and the overall output of those workers. Out of those 10 to 20 businesses, we expect that about 5% will probably enter the market. And once again, we do these so we can have some reasonable expectations. We do expect that out of the life of the project, at least one of those companies will remain operating locally and it will expand into our market. Finally, having this innovation campus will provide us with a different competitive advantage. We are diversifying our labor pool and expertise in R&D and in animal health. We expect that this campus will help marketing the city and the county as an innovation hub. Thus, we could see at least one business attraction that would come directly from the campus. With all these conditions, we do expect that the economic impact in the next 10 years from the Innovation Campus would be around $1.3 billion. Any questions?
Any questions for Freddie? Okay, thank you, Freddie. I don't see anyone's hand raised.
I don't think I have a question so much as a comment, but that's very impressive. What an impact.
So Deputy Mayor, I'll go next. This is Glenda. I don't have a slide because I wanted to be brief with you all. And I wanted to just kind of, first of all, just say that we were tested last year. COVID almost kicked us in the gut, but we kicked back. And so I believe that at the end of the day, we came out shining. Our businesses were taken care of. I know that we haven't completed the process, but they were well taken care of. We looked at every opportunity to support them. We contributed $1.2 million last year to business support. We, at the end of the year, we received a $300,000 grant from the county. And that was a great contribution because businesses were able to use those funds as well. So all in all, we put about $1.5 million out of business support to our small business community, which was awesome. It was outstanding. Our Kansas PTAC continues to grow. Even though there was a pandemic, it did not seem like it. She busted all her goals. The statewide Kansas PTAC contributed $210 million to the economy last year in contracts and services from federal, state, and local governments. Shawnee County residents businesses received about 35 contracts totaling about $2.9 million. And so we continue to move on, continue to hustle, and continue to make sure that these businesses were identified as sources and resources for the state, for contracts, for federal contracts. So Chrissy's done an outstanding job making sure that our businesses did not sleep on opportunities. We were always knocking on doors, calling them, assisting them, helping them get what they needed, get certified and approved to move on these business opportunities. And then finally, the THA Empowerment Project that you all approved for me last year, we're about 80% complete with the site. Late spring, we'll have 5 businesses opening, and we will hold their hands and walk them through the rest of this pandemic so that these businesses can grow. So we're really excited about opportunities and where we're going. We will wait patiently to see what other opportunities we have for our businesses, but we think that as a small business, minority business sector, we are in position to develop a strong strategy to support our infrastructure, to strengthen our business base, and to offer greater resources for our small businesses. So thank you for the opportunity, and I stand for questions.
I'll just ask a quick question, Glenda, if I may. You talk about the businesses that you will handhold or mentor and walk them through. Kind of give me an idea of the kinds of things that you're able to provide to them that eases that entry into the workplace.
Sure. So we're going to help them find contract opportunities. If that's an opportunity out there, we'll help them find the contracting opportunity. For example, we help them find mentors. For example, we have one individual that's has training in construction, and he's wanted to start a construction business. Well, we've partnered him with the Topeka Housing Authority, which is on the grounds of where the facility is housed. And they'll be working with him throughout this whole process. So that's just one example. One young lady, we partner her with a daycare service provider, and this lady has over 900 employees She's out of Fort Riley and she does daycare for the military. And so she's done a good job in putting her package together, showing her mentee, our young lady, how to package it, how to present it, how to manage the systems that are in place. So generally, as a small business, you don't get a mentor that's going to walk you through everything. And so we have them holding their hands, walking them through. We give them any kind of counseling they need, any kind of support that they might need to make sure that this business, to almost, I would say, is guaranteed to be successful.
Thank you, Glenda. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it brings them off of the system into, you know, the real world so they can compete with other businesses.
Okay, any further questions for Glenda? Okay.
And Glenda was the last for our quarterly report. And if there are any other questions, otherwise we'll be ready for the next agenda item when you are.
Okay, I think we'll move on to agenda item number 4, our action items. The clerk, Brenda, would you read?
A is approval of December 9, 2020 and December 22, 2020 JEDO board meeting minutes.
Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. A second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilwoman Nager. Brenda, we call the roll call vote.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Nager,
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Rippon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
and Commissioner Mays.
Yes.
We have 6 yes, motion carries.
Okay. Brenda, is there anyone signed up for public comment after? item 4?
No, nothing for 4 or
Okay.
A or B.
Okay, would you read action item number 4B, please?
B is approval of Choose Topeka relocation incentive request.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? I'm trying to catch a hand up.
I'll move to approve.
Was that
Second.
Councilwoman Nager?
Yes, sir.
And who was the second, please?
Councilman Lesser.
Councilman Lesser, thank you. Brenda, will you call the roll vote, please?
We have Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes?
Councilmember Nager,
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Rippon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
and Commissioner Mays.
Yes.
We have 6 yes, motion carries.
Okay. Next on the agenda is, I believe, 5A, a non-action item.
A is a JEDO Local Business Recovery Task Force update.
Okay, I'm going to start this off. We had a task force meeting, and actually, I think it was a good meeting. And we brought up a lot of subjects, but we were in a position by the end of the meeting that we felt that we had still not reached those guidelines and parameters that we would have brought forth as a recommendation. But Commissioner Mays offered a very good worksheet that we started from, and it gave us an opportunity to really talk about what we are trying to define as a small business. And I think that it was, from our discussion, we wanted to really target any next round of support for small businesses, because it became clear that there were some categories that just kind of fell through the cracks on current guidelines. And I know that since we had our meeting, there has been even more announcements about rounds of assistance coming our way. However, I'd like to defer to Commissioner Mays because his list really did help guide the conversation, along with some very good ideas from Councilman Lesser about how we would focus and target to make sure that the money is getting to where it's needed the most, where we may have overlooked that small, very small, and or, as Glenda Washington described, micro business. So Commissioner Mays, would you comment on our meeting, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. What we did, I put together basically a kind of a one-page document of some of the items that were brought up in our special meeting of JEDO, and really just wrote down kind of what we had talked about in that meeting, and then use that as sort of a jumping off point for the task force. And so while we still have some details to work out, I think we've got a good starting point, and actually a little bit beyond that probably. So what we did is we primarily talked about who we would like to see as eligible for this program. And so we said they would be locally owned businesses, and so they would be owned by residents of Shawnee County. They'd be small businesses, under 50 full-time employees. And then we had some discussion about the minimum number of employees. Ultimately, I believe we settled on 2 full-time employees, and they would need to be W-2 employees and not necessarily, and not 1099s. So no contract employees would be counted in that. We also had a list of targeted industries that we would look at, including food and beverage, lodging, events, sports, entertainment, and travel. So we felt like these were some of the industries that have been most affected by COVID-19 and would probably be in more need of relief than other industries. There was some discussion about target businesses, whether startups could be eligible. Many of the other programs that are available out there are designated strictly for existing companies, and they have to show year-over-year revenue decreases in order to be eligible. We ultimately decided that startups could be eligible for this because taking a risk and starting a business in the midst of a pandemic is probably something that, was not planned on. Anyone who's ever started a business knows that the planning and the financial investment that you make starts months and even years sometimes in advance of your ribbon cutting. And so we felt that we would not exclude startup companies from this if need be. We talked a little bit about the amount of the grants and what that would be. Initially, I had thrown out the number of $1,000 to $10,000 as being sort of a range. Ultimately, after some discussion, we decided that 3,000 should probably be the lower threshold, and then 25,000 would be the maximum. So somewhere in that range is kind of what we're looking at. So we felt that some businesses, 10,000 wouldn't be enough for them, and 1,000 probably wouldn't make much of a difference for a lot of the companies out there. So we do want to work on some details about the application process, who determines who's eligible for these, how much they get, things like that. So there's still a bit of discussion that needs to happen there. I had a conversation with Molly earlier today about this and thought that perhaps the Small Business Incentive Committee that's already formed through GTP might be a good place for some of these to go to decide who's eligible. One of the things we also talked about would be some of the, I guess, ancillary items that would come along with these grants would be maybe some business continuity education through the GTP. One of their current grant programs has some educational aspects to it and some components of free education on maybe how to do payroll and ways to cut costs and efficiencies that might be earned. And so we thought that since Glenda had sort of already begun that process with some businesses, it might be good to lump those together. And then we had also talked about some kind of way that we might be able to help folks apply for some of the other government funding and private funding even that's available out there. And so a lot of these people that are small business owners are flat out too busy to do the research to find those grants that are available, or just don't know where to look. And so we've got some folks in our city like Glenda at the GTP that know exactly what's available and where to find it, and might be able to help some of those folks apply for those. And so that's kind of where we're at. I think we need at least 1 or 2 more meetings before we have a final product to present, but I think we made some good progress, and hoping to have this wrapped up before too long.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilman Lesser, would you like to comment as well on the work that we did?
I don't have anything very much to add. I think you guys summed it up very well. I think, the only other thing that one of the things that we did look at that we're going to analyze as well as is in our criteria is what previous funding has already been received by any of the applicants that apply for this program. But yeah, I would agree. We get a good start, and I think maybe not 1 more meeting, but I think 2 more meetings. I think we'll probably be able to bring something back and be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions? Any comments that we'd like to hear before Councilwoman Ortiz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess this question might be for my buddy Aaron Mays there. So you guys didn't consider the barber shops, the carpet cleaners, or any of the pawn shops? I didn't hear any of that mentioned.
Specifically, no, those were not included in our initial recommendations. I'm sure that in our next meeting we could consider those as targeted industries. I don't know. I guess that's something we could look at. Retail establishments, some are doing well, some are not. So it's certainly something we need to look at. We did discuss, that there needs to be a proof of a hardship in some way. So whether that's through income statements or even just some sort of a description of how they've been affected and in a negative way, and an estimated loss that they might come up with. But yeah, I think if there are industries that need to be included in this that you think, we can certainly discuss that at our next meeting.
Well, I'd like to add those 3, and I think I have 1 more. When I look at our carpet cleaners, I have a small business that did get host money that was able to fix his vehicle to continue to work, but people don't want them in their house, and so that's kind of cut out a lot of their profit. The pawn shops, they can't get money through HUD. So, they did get some host money. They were able to do that. But the other 2, I know that the city offered them their grant and they couldn't because they sell ammunition. But these are businesses that have been in business for over 50 years, that are small businesses, that continuously call me and say, hey, do we know what we're going to do, that pay their taxes. And so that's why I'm asking. People are still scared to go into the beauty shops and to the barber shops. So their businesses is on appointment only. And if the people don't show up, then they lose out, you know. So that's why I asked. I think we should really, really consider that. I know Councilman Lesser said, well, we don't want anybody that, you know, like he said in the last meeting, that's going to fail. But if we're going to help them along, I think this would be a good to help them along, especially if you're talking, you know, $3,000 or so. So there's one more. I can't think of it, Aaron. I'm getting old on this committee, but I will, and I'll get it to you. But I would hope that you would consider some of the businesses like the establishments as well. I know everybody's hurting. I know that, but when you mentioned this and you brought it up, I thought it was a great thing because we need to continue to try to help all of our businesses if we can, and also our mechanics. That's who I was thinking of. Again, people don't have the money to get their car fixed like they used to, and then they can't go get loans and stuff like that, like they were able to. Our host money did a great job of kind of getting them over that hump, but they're suffering. They're still suffering with people losing their jobs and stuff like that. Thank you. Thank the committee for all their work.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Councilwoman. I don't think that the intent of this is to exclude any particular industries necessarily, or to, I mean, we specifically did talk about how we want to keep the requirements relatively broad. There are a couple components that we want to keep narrow. We want to make sure that they're small local businesses, but we want to keep the requirements relatively broad because that is a problem, that those parameters with some of those federal grants and things have been so narrow that a lot of companies that probably should have received assistance didn't. And so we really felt that the intent of this program would be to try and pick up some of those companies that were skipped over on other programs. So I don't know how we'll approach that. That's something we'll probably get into the weeds on in our next meeting, but I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
And I'll call on you, Councilwoman. And if I may, Councilwoman Ortiz, in the document that we were working from, generally a category was service businesses. So that would kind of cover the things you're talking about by carpet cleaning and or mechanics or those kinds of things, service industries as well. But we hadn't specifically named them as auto repairs or anything, but I do think that that's a good concern, and that is a general area that we wanted to look at even more closely. So the list isn't exhaustive at this point, but I'm glad you brought that up. As any good suggestions, we more than welcome the input. Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a laundry list, but we're investing quite a bit in entrepreneurs. And when they start, they're just working for themselves. They don't, and sometimes do that indefinitely. Maybe it's not even some people even don't even have a facility. They're doing service work or specialty work. I think of whether it's the dog walkers or the cupcake bakers. You know, some people are setting up a business model where they do their work and then they contract for clerical support or financial bookkeeping support and so on, rather than being big enough to hire somebody to do those things, or simply choosing to support other small businesses as a model. And so I remember us talking about this when the city set up the city's program to make sure that we were considering sole proprietors. I don't know that we went so far as to talk about the model, but I'm now much more familiar than I was then of people who've chosen to have that business model. So I do hope, I understand the other parameters, but I hope you consider that. And a question, I see Glenda is here online. Did you include Glenda Washington in your conversations? And then further, did you include Corey Wright, who's running the city's programs, just to consult with them?
Well, yes, we did have Glenda.
Okay.
She was Washington. She was a part of this. And I think Corey was in, but I don't remember a big presentation from her, but certainly we would make sure to include her. Glenda offered quite a bit of information and updating what we currently have and really bringing some focus to the things you suggest. So certainly we would continue to rely on her to reach into the committee and give us suggestions.
Thank you. I think even of Katrine's presentation earlier where we like, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Katrine's presentation where we're inviting entrepreneurs through plug and play that have specialty work. And, you know, if things freeze up, even people like that are, at least as a start, they're sole proprietors as well. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the topic of sole proprietorship did come up during the conversation. Councilman Lesser.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, a couple things. To Sylvia's comments, I don't think it was ever was our intent. I think we had a conversation committee-wise in regards to, hey, who do we want to target? What industries do we want to look at? But I think our intent, I think I speak for Aaron and Mike, that there was never an exclusion of any type of business or any type of service or anything like that in regards to, you know, pawn shops or mechanics or, you know, that was just, we had to come up with a starting point of, okay, what are we looking at? What are we trying to help? And it's still a work in progress. And yeah, Glenda was very helpful during the process and during our first meeting. And at the end of the day, it was meeting one. We set a good foundation that I think that we can work from. But at the end of the day, what we're also trying to do is, the money's not endless. So we're trying to figure out and tailor a program that creates the most impact in the community. The reality of that is it's probably going to leave some people out, unfortunately. But we want to get the most bang for our buck and help as many as we can and use a trickle-down effect by doing so. So I think we got a good start, but by no means are we close to a document to bring to you. But I think within, like I said, 2 more meetings, I think we'll have a pretty good structure to bring to you guys to look at and make your recommendations and any changes that you guys see fit as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further comment before we ask for public comment on this topic? Brenda, do we have someone signed up for public comment on this item?
We do, Mr. Lazone Graves.
Ms. Graves.
Yes, can you hear me? Excellent. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to make some comments and recommendation. It seems that this is a process that is a reactionary to the COVID to try to help our local small businesses, which is good, and I am very much in support of that. But I think that it's a moment that demands a little bit more than just looking at the low-hanging fruit and just reacting, because even before the COVID and these things came around, there had already been probably issues where local small businesses don't believe that they are getting as much business that they can from those places that they probably should, like local government contracts, city, county, corporations, and even with this emphasis also, or at least a concern on minority businesses. I have shared before the statistical disparity with minority businesses in public funded contracts. If there's a momentum here to try to help small businesses and minority businesses, I would hope that the locally elected officials, the local bodies, city, county, possibly JEDO, that they would be looking to something further down the road so that after we come out of this here, it is actually a stronger framework or platform for small and minority businesses. The disparities that exist today is because of either bad policy or policies that are on the books that are not being overseen very well. Supplier diversity is probably one of the long-term things that I hope this task force could be, as they are seeing what they can do for businesses right now. But in the bigger picture, what can be done over the long term that can really be of great benefit to small, local, and the minority different businesses. It's a JEDO, which I don't believe that it has any type of policy for supplier diversity. I think that now is a good time for the long term for the city and the county to revisit their own contracting and procurement policy and see where supplier diversity enters into this. That if companies such as Walmart or whomever are going to be receiving public funds, that the negotiations can be had through a policy or through some type of encouragement, that they will assist in seeking out our local small businesses, local minority businesses, that if the city, the county, the JEDO has no goals of using small or minority businesses, there really isn't going to be any pressure for local companies that's getting a lot of incentives or tax dollars, public funds, to try to make them also say, well, we will set a goal of using 5% of local small businesses on our build and those things that keeps our doors open. And so hopefully this can be a part of the conversation so that by March of next year, and the COVID is gone, or we are back close to doing well, that there's already some type of a framework, because the way that local government procurement operates with these lowest responsive and qualified bidder, cities are in competition with each other on helping their local small businesses. And the same way as this is considered a program specifically to help and assist our local businesses, I think that
Mr. Graves,
Yes.
if I may interrupt, your time is up. Would you like more time?
Yes, sir.
And how much would you like?
2 minutes.
How much more time do you need?
2 minutes.
Okay. You have a motion to allow Mr. Graves an additional 2 minutes for his comments.
I'll move for that.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Mays. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Nager.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
and Commissioner Mays.
Yes.
We have 6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Go
Uh,
ahead and proceed.
in the end, with the task force, and I think that there are other people who have ideas. I know I've been making suggestions and recommendations that deals with supplier diversity, looking at the bigger picture, that after you get past this discussion here on the Band-Aid, the reactionary move, that but that you also use it that can lead into a framework on where do we go after the $700,000 is gone, and maybe the COVID is still around. If there is a local body of corporations who ascribe to supplier diversity and our local government, and we can see what we can do to match those small businesses that we have here, and probably giving some type of an incentive for doing business with small and women and minority businesses, just as if we are giving an incentive, just monies for local businesses with these funds. I think that that would be a very good thing in the long term. So that if there's a plug and play or wealthy company or some other company that comes here and they want an incentive, there's already some type of supplier diversity philosophy that is embraced by our city, then at least it is something brought to the table. If they say, yes, we want to do 10% of our business with women-owned businesses, then I'm sure Mrs. Washington and others can help them find and source those businesses and then help them get the type of funding that they need to go in. Because if our local businesses get some of these contracts with some of these bigger businesses, they're going to create long-lasting jobs for people who may not get their foot into the door at a regular Walmart or at a regular company. And so I'm hoping that this task force don't just quit at the 700,000, but it really uses this as a stepping stone on what is the bigger policy picture that can be done for supplier diversity that gives an advantage to our local small businesses and those other target businesses that the statistics show that there is a statistically significant disparity.
Thank you for your comments.
That they are getting.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Zone. Do we have any further public comment on this issue? Seeing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is general public comment. And I believe we have one person signed up, Brenda?
Yeah, Deborah Vance.
Ms. Vance?
Good evening. My name is Deborah Vance. I am a member of El Shaddai Ministries and a member of Topeka Jump. The reason we are here tonight is because we're trying to see if people have rights to work, and many still don't. We have seen a good economic development program for working class people to be downgraded into an incentive. What makes an incentive different is that the company is responsible to making transportation work. They get reimbursed a bit, but they still have to figure out how to make transportation work. Now, instead of 5 companies participating in transportation, there are 2. The workers and their families are not being valued here. Members of my family used Soto and Neto when they were running. When people needed a ride to work, they don't call this body, they call me. For 3 years, I have been able to refer people to Soto and Neto. People I know have gotten jobs that they normally would not be able to get because of transportation issues. Now I have nowhere to send people. Even my own son has missed 2 days of work because he could not get a ride to research. Since January, my phone has rung 15 times and I have not been able to refer people to help that would get them transportation to interviews or shifts. We are glad there are now rides to Frito-Lay and Target, but there was a month-long gap in services for them. The gap is even bigger for people who work at Research or any other company that participated in Soto and Neto. What about the employees at these companies? Go Topeka staff made a commitment to you in December that there would be running workforce transportation programs by January 1st. That did not happen. At this point, we are not asking for transportation programs to all major employers outside the city. We are not asking for a 24-hour bus route. We are asking that there be a robust workforce transportation for at least 3 companies to give people better employment options. We want there to be a real program in place at Frito-Lay and Research at the bare minimum. This incentive should continue as part of the JEDO budget moving forward. Working class people need rides to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vance, for your comments. I believe that's everyone who has been signed up for public comment. Brenda, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. If there is nothing further for this body to discuss, I would, I'm looking for a hand, see if anybody wants to interject something before I adjourn the meeting. Seeing none, I adjourn the meeting and thank you for your participation. Have a good evening.